So I'm out in my woods and I'm cutting down a couple of the larger trees to open up the canopy in this bedding area. And I haven't seen too many beds in here because most of the food that I've cut down is a few hundred yards that way, and I think they're coming out of the hemlocks, and they're preferring the hemlocks right now instead of this area. So I think I still need to thicken it up and it'll get better over time. But I did see one bed in particular, and I just wanted to point it out and show, you know, whoever's watching something I noticed about it. Lately I've been watching, you know, the last few years I've been watching a ton of videos on habitat and stuff work for your land, trying to better your woods for white-tailed deer and stuff. And one of the guys that I watch, he's extremely popular, and he's from the Midwest, and I've learned a bunch of stuff from him. Most of the videos that you click on, it'll be his videos. He has a bunch of videos on myths and stuff about habitat work, especially hinge cutting. And one of them, he says that you should never hinge cut above waist level, that you're providing side cover for the deer, and deer don't need overhead cover, is what he says. And he's kind of smug about it, you know what I mean? I get the feeling he's kind of, his ego's getting a little inflated, I think, as the YouTube viewers grow. I think his ego is growing with it, because he kind of laughs at other people and the way they do their habitat work. And these are other well-known people, people who have worked for QDMA, and one of them, some guys I've seen take logs, bedding logs, and put them in certain spots, and they put them there specifically for the deer to bed right next to. There's another thing, they also rake the ground and actually level the ground out everywhere where they want these deer to bed. And they've walked through their woods. I've seen them walk through their woods in different videos, and they can actually pick up hair out of every single bed that they've raked out. And this other guy who I'm speaking of, one of the things he says is that deer they don't need overhead cover. That when you do hinge cuts, you should never do hinge cuts above waist level. They just need side cover and stuff. And to be honest, I think that deer do prefer overhead cover, because it's like that natural instinct that that's ingrained in them to protect themselves from you know, things jumping down from them, mountain lions and stuff like that. And it's still, I think, ingrained in their head. So overhead cover, I think, is a good thing. Plus, it might shade them a little bit and stuff in the summertime. But in the wintertime, they probably don't want shade. But I still think they feel safer when there's something a little bit overhead. And to be honest, nobody really knows. You know, you ain't talking to deer. So you can just try it and see, you know, it's not going to hurt anything having a little bit of overhead cover. But I was walking through my woods, and I'm cutting down trees and stuff and opening the canopy again, and I came across this deer bed. And these deer, it's wintertime, these deer have plenty of side cover around here. There's logs, there's deep snow on top of the logs, there's bushes and everywhere else. And this deer, which is one of the only beds in this area, because I think they prefer the hemlocks now, bedded down underneath this tree. He actually bedded down underneath that tree. There's this little depression right here, directly underneath that tree. Now he could have bedded on the side cover here. There's plenty of side cover over there, over here. And I just wanted to point that out, that deer decided to walk through all this side cover. That deer felt like it wanted to lay underneath that log. So I think there's something to it, you know. I think it's like ingrained in their head to protect themselves from up above. You know, they walk through the woods and they see us in the trees, so, you know, there's still things that there's danger from above. And I think they have a strong preference to get underneath something. And I just wanted to point this out because, you know, here's an example. I don't really have that many high hinge cuts, but that deer came over and laid down underneath these two trees. You know, it's not something they need, but maybe they have a strong preference for it. There's also another area where a blow-down tree came down and all the branches laid down, and that tree was already dead, by the way, and provided like almost an umbrella of branches. And I noticed about a month ago that the deer were bedding under that. So they got up underneath that thing. So it seems like they like overhead cover. Now, I don't have 80,000 viewers, so take it for what it's worth. I don't know what amount of viewers you need before what you say is gospel, but that one guy, I tell you what, I learn a lot. I learned a lot of things from him, but he sure thinks whatever he says is right. There's something to it, I think. And just because there's a dude out there with 100,000 views, and he's really confident what he says, and laughs at everybody else, usually that's the guy who's got a little bit of an ego problem, I think, at least in my experience in life and stuff. And maybe that guy, he should take other people's advice, because you can learn from anybody in this world. That's one thing I know. There ain't nobody you can't learn something from. So maybe that guy should start learning from other people and try it himself instead of regurgitating the same thing he's done over and over and over again, because that's his system, and by God, that's the right way. But anyway, I just wanted to show that, because I think there's something to it, that overhead cover. I think if you make like a little bit of a canopy, and those deer will tuck themselves underneath there, and just kind of a psychological thing that I think that makes them feel safe.